is out of control and out of whack and out of kilter and all of those things, you either gonna go over here too much, too little,
Yes,
not
yes.
enough, whatever, however you want to frame it. And we all need help in our lives to get from point A to point B. This is why, for me, I espouse to counseling.
Yes,
Counseling
yes,
plus Jesus,
yes,
you
you
can't go wrong.
Absolutely.
I'll tell that to anybody. And I often have the thought that, some of the people who I grew up with, if they had an intervention early on,
Oh, yes.
then perhaps, you wouldn't see them walking up and down the
Absolutely.
street,
Absolutely.
talking out of their heads.
Absolutely.
This one particular guy I know, it would be 90 degrees and you would see him up on the playground spinning around in that heat, for hours. And my thought is, wow, what happened? Because as you know, that's taboo. It was taboo
Right.
to need any kind of help. But, for me, it's like, no, counseling plus Jesus, you can't go wrong.
Right. And another thing that I learned in suffering and the abuse that I and the neglect that from various situations that I allowed myself to get into and chose is that we suffer in our self-esteem area. And when you suffer in your self-esteem area, then you subject yourself to situations that you don't have to. I'm not even gonna say that you shouldn't, but you don't have to. We stay in abusive relationships because your self-esteem is now involved, and you fear comes in because your self-esteem is low. You don't know your value. You don't know your worth, and because you don't, somebody else is putting their value and their worth on you, and I call it the identity crisis. Now you're beginning to have identity crisis of knowing who you are and whose you are, and what belong to you and how to go get it. But our self-esteem suffer. We suffer in our self-esteem area, and I used to tell my mom, I don't like this person. I can't stand that person, and I love my mottos that I build up. And one, my mom used to always tell me, this really helped me to heal and judge people correctly, when she used to say, it's not the person you don't like, it's their character, it's the things that they do that you don't like. And that gave me better understanding on how to judge people and how to determine what I'm going to allow in my space. I have another motto: when you get into situations, we stay in relationships, so any jobs, it doesn't even matter, that's a relationship too, that we shouldn't be in. We stay in it too long, and I've learned, what, it's okay. At the end of the day, I got to love me more than I love that situation, more than I love that person. I love me more. If I lose this job, and we're always devastated to lose a job. If I lose this job, and I don't know where I heard this at, but I picked this motto up so well because I was a contractor for a long time. And in contracting, when the contract ends, if you're in upper management or whatever, you're the first to go.
Right.
If the new contractor come in and
Right.
don't accept you, you're the first to go. And I learned a very valuable thing, that when I came to that job, I was looking for a job. So if I leave that job, guess what I'm going to be doing? Looking for another job.
Right.
So and that made me stronger. It made me stronger. It made me more determined. Now I understand. But I also understood Leroy Thompson, that I'd never be broke another day in my life. That I had to skill myself. And so when I was raising my children, I taught them you have to skill yourself in various ways.
Right. Absolutely.
And so that's where the sister locks come in at,
Yes.
and the other various
Massage
things, massage
therapist,
therapy,
author.
yes.
But that goes to the point of our ancestors, because I remember my grandmother very vividly saying, "You never put all your eggs in one basket,"
Right.
and that's really what you're saying.
But you know what, Nicole, I learned a very, very, it was something that, when I was younger, we used to always create clubs. We used to always create clubs, and everybody had a club, and you pay dues to the club. I believe that's one experience in life as a little girl prepared me for life today. To create the environment and create the situations that I want to be in. So it allowed me to be able to work with other women and other youth. I work with youth. I have most of my surroundings are empowering youth. I used to do the Rock Empowerment Center, where I work with youth, and I did Impact program, which almost was like Scared Straight, when I would take the youth to prison. And I now do prison ministry called YAM, Young Achievers Ministry. But it's not just the youth ministry, but it's also we create environments where they be exposed to education and exposed to people telling them about their dreams and their goals, showing that there's something else in life. You know, I realized that a lot of people don't know that when I see the young people out on the street and they selling drugs, or they look like they selling drugs, because everybody out there not selling, they just look like it because of the environment they're subject themselves to. But those are leaders. Those are entrepreneurs. And someone needs to tap into them and let them know, you know what, you're an entrepreneur. You can have your own business. You know, this avenue here, you don't have to work for someone else. Someone else can work for you.
Absolutely.
But, you know, someone have to get them and mentor them. And I love it. I created a little card, and my little card for young men who got their pants hanging down. And so when we out, if I happen to see them, I can give it to them. It says, pull your pants up. You were born to be a king. You know, so one of the things I do, and especially when I'm dealing with women who are married, I counsel them, and single women too, that's getting into relationships or